Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We're here today with a brand new Training Thursday, episode 2498. If you want to check out all of the show notes, the three big takeaways, they will be at stephencabral.com/2498. Today we're going to be talking about how to use exercise, and not even a lot of it, maybe 20, 30 minutes, but we're going to teach you how to use that to actually block fat storage. If it sounds too good to be true, hopefully you understand that I'm not a hype-based person. I will actually give you the science behind it and just share with you how to use this to your advantage. So this is something that I've been using in my practice for quite some time, since, well, the late 90s, I can tell you for sure. But now I understand more about the ins and outs of it and how to use it to, again, a client's advantage, my advantage, something that I think we can all be doing, because it allows you then to eat more of the foods that you enjoy eating and not have to exercise for an hour a day, which most people don't have the time, nor do they want to do. So as we're teaching you how to do this, just understand that your body stores fat for one main reason. The reason is it doesn't always believe that there will be this abundance of food. So believe it or not, really just up until the last 100 years, food has not been a given, right? You can't always just walk down the street for most people, 99+% of the people, right? They can't just walk down the street in a Western-based civilization. They weren't able to do this and just grab any food that they want, right? For inexpensive money, you can get some type of snack and it's gonna give you a couple hundred calories, right? So I'm not saying that it's healthy for you, but it's calories. It's food that your body can then turn into energy. So even just, again, who knows how long humans have been around, but many hundreds of thousands of years. And so when we look at this, we're saying, okay, the human body was very smart in its design. It said if you got a lot of calories today and maybe tomorrow, you could store the excess as body fat. And then when you were in times of struggle and famine, you would be able to then tap on those fat stores, break them down, and actually use that as energy and fuel. Okay, so we understand how it works with our body, but you might be saying to yourself, sure, but I'm not in danger of going into a famine, and I don't want all of this extra body fat, or even 5-10 pounds more of it. Okay, so let's go into that. So once you know, again, the process as to why your body holds it, then we break it down one more level. All right, so we know our body's gonna take excess calories and store that as body fat. So the next step is, how does it store it as body fat? Because we want to be able to healthy biohack our way around storing it as body fat. This is how we're going to maintain a leaner body, overall healthier physique. And again, not about vanity. If you want it, if you want to get six-pack abs, you want to do all those things, fantastic. This helps with that. But it's also just about maintaining good health, right? Because we know that maintaining a healthy body weight is going to allow us to most likely, 99% of the time, live longer, a longer, healthier life with less pain, less inflammation, better balanced hormones, etc. Okay, so the first way that we have to understand is when we take in calories in general, people think carbohydrates are the enemy. Let's kind of peel back the curtain here, because protein can create carbohydrates. We've done a show on that. I'm happy to do another show on that, but protein can literally be used to create, we'll call it carbohydrates, but let's just say glucose, right? So sugar, glucose, carbs, why don't we use those interchangeably today, okay? And again, we're just giving you the foundation. I have many, many other shows, which I can help link up today as well at episode 2498. So what we want to understand is that everything but fat can be used as carbohydrates, but fat can also be stored as fat, right? Excess calories absolutely can be stored as fat. But the thing is this, the body's going to take any form of excess calories, but first in the form of glucose, and actually take that sugar and convert it to glycogen. All right, so what this means is this. It takes sugar, glucose, it can use protein-based amino acids through a process of breaking those down and actually creating the glucose as well. But again, I've talked about that on my keto-based episodes, etc. But it's a process called glycogenesis. All right, so in glycogenesis, we are taking sugar, breaking it down, and storing it as glycogen. All right, so sugar or carbs or proteins come into the body. We break them down through a process of glycogenesis. It's stored as glycogen. Where is that glycogen, glucose, stored? It's stored in the liver first. And then when the liver stores are predominantly filled, it's then stored in the muscle tissue. Your body can store, the average individual can store about 2,000 calories in the form of liver and muscle-based glycogen. So that breaks down to about 500 grams of stored glucose in the body, or glycogen, all right? So be able to be used as glucose for fuel, okay? Because again, please keep in mind, even when you are in a state of ketosis, you are using glucose. Anybody who tells you differently is not understanding human physiology, because you need a certain level of baseline glucose to be alive, all right? So I understand the process of ketosis and ketones, we've talked about that, but you need some, all right? So we've got this process going on. We store about 100 grams of that in the liver. So somewhere between 90 and 120 grams for your average individual. It really depends on the size of this right here. And if you're watching this on video, you see me pointing to the liver. Huge, bright red organ under the, or dark red organ underneath the right side of the rib cage, predominantly covered by the rib cage. Now, this is going to store about 100 grams of glucose. So fantastic, right? We have all that glucose there. Now, in the rest of the body and all the skeletal-based muscle, we're able to store about another 400 grams of glycogen. Again, that glycogen can be used for your workouts, anything high intensity, anything anaerobic, and then of course just to maintain normal healthy blood sugar. As your blood sugar begins to dip, you can use that glycogen to level out normal levels. All right, so that's the first part. So what your body will do is when excess calories are taken in the form of, again, glucose and different amino acids, it can be converted and stored as glycogen. But once those, and the nice thing is it's not going to be stored as fat. So that's why everybody worried about eating some carbohydrates, you have to understand is like, you're not going to add more body fat eating carbohydrates if your glycogen stores, is a little tip that we're going to talk about in just a second, need to be refilled. All right, so the next part is after your liver and muscle glycogen has been topped off, it's a new process. Instead of glycogenesis, it is moving over into lipogenesis. Genesis is something that some people say, for the most part in the industry, you're gonna hear it as lipogenesis, glycogenesis. All right, so glyco means sugar, lipo, fat, all right? So in lipogenesis, now the body is taking the excess calories in general, converting them over to fats that are then stored in the adipose tissue, which is your body fat. So what does that mean? Well, it means any excess calories, any excess food you eat that you're not burning off through your metabolic rate and any exercise and movement you do, then gets stored as body fat. Now, there is no upper limit, right? So in storing glycogen, about 100 grams in the liver, about 400 grams in the muscles, that's it, right? The larger the person, you store a little bit more. The smaller the person, you store a little bit less. Like that's how the human body works, right? There's less storehouses, but it's different with adipose tissue. With adipose tissue, you can grow the human body pretty much as big as you want to, honestly. Like there are people that have weighed well excess of 600, 800 plus pounds. So like you can put on a lot of body fat, and that's because the adipose tissue, the cells don't necessarily multiply, but what they do is expand, right? So when you're looking at adipose tissue, these globules, essentially, they're able to expand almost like water balloons, and they'll hold more fluid and they'll hold more fatty acids, etc. So this is why we start to gain body fat. We've overfilled our glycogen stores, and now the body's saying, okay, we don't need to make any more glucose. We're topped off. We have 500 grams. Now let's store it as body fat. And that will be excess calories we can also use if there's a state of famine or it's used to be the winter-based season, like think New England, right? Like what's growing in New England during the winter? Almost nothing. Right? And so you have to understand is that, again, even like I said, a couple hundred years ago, you can say there's farming, there's this, there's that. It's still pretty scarce, right? We didn't have as much. Try to store what you can from a fall harvest. You've got animals, you've got other things that you can use, but it's going to be more meager. All right, so then your body, it might gain 20 pounds, you might lose 20 pounds, all through this process of weight gain and weight loss. All right, so now that we know how the body stores first, glycogen that does not add body fat, right? It literally just fills up the stores that are meant to be full. If you fill up your muscle stores, your muscles actually look, I know I'm putting this in air quote, more toned, but they're more full. That's not a bad thing at all. It doesn't look like body fat at all. The body fat, which kind of smooths out the body or might be a little bit more dimply with cellulite, etc. Okay, that's going to come from body fat storage. So now that we know this, how do we use exercise to our advantage to allow us to eat more food, but also not store body fat. All right, so the first thing, yes, is you need to understand total calories that your body burns. And I've got lots of those calculators at, I believe it's stephencabral.com/assessments. They're all free. You can take any one of those assessments that you want. It's just meant to be educational, meant to, kind of get you that next level of education so you see where you're at. But you have to understand your metabolic rate. We'll come back to that at the very end. Your metabolic rate is how many calories can you eat per day without gaining weight, or to gain weight, right? Because we work with a lot of people in our practice that also want to gain weight. So this is what you want to look at. We do parameters within most people that go from anywhere from 10 to 20 as a multiple of their body weight, right? So if you weigh 140 pounds, you might eat anywhere from 140 to, what is that, 280, right, to 2,800 calories, right? 1,400 calories to 2,800 calories for a person that weighs 140 pounds. That's typically the spectrum that we're using with nutrition plans. If someone has a high metabolic rate, whether they're active or not, they're gonna eat more calories to be able to gain weight or maintain it if they're an athlete, they're doing a lot of movement. And then if it's someone that has a more difficult time losing weight, okay, well, we're going to be on the lower end of that spectrum, right? And we try to, but the goal is we actually try to get the person to eat as much food as they can, healthy food. And the reason is that when you eat food, you're not just eating it for the macronutrients, you're eating it for the micros. And we've lost sight of that as even a health-based industry, a nutrition industry. Nutrition is not just about if it fits your macros or calories in, calories out. Because what we've forgotten about is, sure, that works in your teens, 20s, and 30s, but what happens when your body becomes more catabolic and depleted in your late 30s and beyond? Well, it's a disaster for the human body. And again, as a lot of practitioners, they just completely overlook that. So we try to teach that in the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute and other places, just of course on the podcast, that it does matter your vitamins and your minerals and your omega-3s and so much more. All of those things matter. And if you can get more good quality food into your body, well, you're actually going to have more energy. You're going to have more life to your body because it's also about the micros, not just about the calories. Okay, so there's a spectrum of calories that you can eat, and the more metabolically active you are, strong thyroid, balanced cortisol levels with your adrenals in general, keeping your stress levels checked, good healthy gut function and absorption and digestion, then you can actually raise your metabolic rate. So if I'm working with someone, let's say there's a woman in my practice, she wants to lose weight, she's 160 pounds, we have her at 1,600 calories a day, she's not losing weight with it. Well, my goal is, yes, in the beginning I might have to take her calories down a bit, but the truth is I actually want to rev up her metabolism through improving her thyroid function, lowering her evening cortisol levels, improving her sleep, improving her nutrition, diet, supplementation, all those things to get her up to eating, instead of maybe 1,400 calories a day in the short term, I eventually want to get that up to 1,800 calories a day, maybe more, right? And so if I can do that, she gets to eat more food. Most people are happy about that. They can eat more calories, consume more food that they'd like, and then they are still able to maintain their body weight that they want, right? So everybody wins, the human body, and then from the, well, there's a vanity perspective, but then there's also a health perspective, right? Because there's a spectrum for what the human body should weigh in terms of a healthy body mass index. Now, I know there's a lot of people say, oh, body mass index doesn't count. No, it does. It counts in 99+% of people. It's just bodybuilders and some outliers, right, that are going to fall outside of that. So again, that doesn't apply to the average individual. It applies to a special population. Okay. So how do we use exercise, right? That was it. But I had to give you all of that so you understand. When you exercise, you can fully deplete liver glycogen in about 1 hour for a lot of individuals. I mean, I think that's pretty fantastic, right? So you can deplete at least half that in a 30-minute workout. So when I look at it, it's this. You're doing some type of metabolic conditioning workout or high-intensity interval training, or some sprint interval training for that period of time. I'm going to talk a lot more about this in January with the high performance program that I'm going to be chatting about, but this is how we do it for celebrity clients, for athletes, for regular everyday people like myself, right? So this is what we do, is we don't do hour-long workouts because the goal is 4 to 5 days a week. So we want that metabolism being stoked daily, like every other day. Let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, pick a day in the weekend. That works for most people. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, maybe Sunday as well if you have more time in the weekend. So again, we're really just talking about 20, 30 minutes. And when we're using, and if you don't know what metabolic conditioning workouts are, Metcon workouts, or HIIT, I'm going to link up the difference between Metcon and HIIT at stephencabral.com/2498. And then I'll also put a link to all my weight loss based podcasts if you're interested in learning more about that. Okay, so here's what we do. I like people to be doing some type of dumbbell, kettlebell, band, whatever it might be, even body weight exercise for about 20 minutes to maybe 30 minutes. But then I like them to do some form of sprint interval training to end the workout to really boost that metabolic rate. Sprint interval training is super easy. Think about it like this. It's not just Tabatas. Tabatas are fine, but it's not just that, right? It might be 20 seconds of sprinting on an upright bike followed by 40 seconds of rest, just letting the heart rate come down. It could be 20 seconds of all-out kettlebell swings followed by 40 seconds of rest. It could be 30 seconds of kettlebell swings, 30 seconds of rest. So like some type of interval like that. I usually like a 1 to 2 if it's a hard sprint, or a 1 to 1 if it's not that hard to sprint, right? So I've got lots of podcasts on exercise like that as well. But if we get in a strong workout like that, we're probably depleting 50 to 60 grams or more of glycogen. That means when we're taking in the next, if we do the math, 6 times 4, 250 calories, right? Extra. We've basically opened up that we're able to then store in as liver glycogen. That means, we can eat carbohydrates, right? We can eat at least 40, 50, 60 grams of carbs if we would like to be able to replenish that store. That will not turn into body fat. So you might say, wow, I can eat 50 grams of carbs again? Yes, you can, right? Like you always could. It's just the information you were given was not the total truth. And yes, a low carb diet will help you lose weight. There's no doubt about it. We use it for the first 21 days. I'm not saying that. Our functional medicine detox, 21 days. Our Fatlocity program, 21 days. But after that, we're actually ramping your carbs back up because you're more likely to go into a lowered metabolic rate, meaning you can't consume the same amount of calories if you continue to deplete yourself, right? So that's what we do. So what I want you to think about is this. If you enjoy carbohydrates like most people do, you can absolutely enjoy those. And if you're trying to lose weight, maybe wait an hour after your workout, and then you start having some of those carbohydrates. Now, you might break it up. 30 grams of carbs, let's say post-workout. Let's say if you're trying to lose weight, we usually wait a half hour to an hour afterwards to keep that effect going for a bit, and then put in that with protein, maybe 30 grams of carbs, etc. But then you can have another meal with 30 grams of carbs as well. And that might not be the only meal that you can have another 30 grams. So do keep in mind, most people that we work with, even with weight loss, they're well above 60 to 80 grams of carbs per day. So that is a very simple, it's not a trick, it's a very simple use of your human physiology on a daily basis to do some type of HIIT workout, Metcon workout, sprint interval training to deplete some of those glycogen stores, to then be able to eat more carbohydrates, food in general, and then not have that be stored as body fat as you continue to transform your body, burn body fat, etc. So obviously I could talk about this for another hour. I'm going to keep it at that for today. Let me know if there's any follow-up questions. I'm happy to do follow-up shows on this topic as well. Take care, everyone. If this show was helpful, do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve.